Here.
Sierra Simrel,
Here.
Harrison Sand, here.
All right, thank you. And I'm believing that is five.
Yes.
Yes.
All
Kilgore,
Yes.
right,
Whitaker,
thank you.
Rovak, Simmerl, and Sand.
Okay, thank you. We do have a quorum present. Is there a motion to approve the agenda for today's meeting?
I make
I
a motion
motion.
to.
I second.
Thank you. There's a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. The third item on the agenda is the approval of the 2025 work plan. I believe we have been reviewing this possibly for the last three meetings. And of course, Ms. Barbara has been working with us to make sure we're in compliance with the Missouri statute of what our actual task is with the Civilian Oversight Board, as well as the current ordinance and then the new police oversight, all these things. So it's taken us a while to make sure that everything's broken down. I know that Candace sent everything out to your emails today, that should show the actual section with the work plan itself that adheres to what our duties are for the Civilian Oversight Board. And then there's a community accountability piece that is separate from that to make sure we were um within compliance and of course like not putting ourselves in a situation. I don't know if Barbara, if you wanted to speak to that.
Yeah, I'll just say general things, that are true. I'm not, like giving advice as to any particular box, but I think no matter what the thing is called, the state law trumps the local law. So you have to do whatever the state law does and not do what it says don't do. So I know Harrison Sand sent you, and I have it pulled up. Anybody can share it, but that chapter 590.693, that was actually made law after 71749, and it's state, so it trumps. So as far as whatever you call any plan or activity, it says the activities of police oversight can be in receiving complaints, in evaluating the complaints, investigating whatever. I can read the exact words in a second, but making findings and making recommendations for discipline. Within that, it tells you what type of complaint. So it can't be like a police officer against a police officer. It has to be a citizen complaint against a police officer. So there's details in there. But that's what the activities of police oversight are, only those. And anything else it says it's void. That anything else is voided. So when you look at something in light of that, you have to, and everything has to fall in one of those things. So, and I can certainly read it. It's not very long if anybody wants to read it, but maybe you all have read it yourselves, so I don't want to presume that you want to hear it again. But but I have it pulled up if anybody would like me to read it.
No, you go ahead and read it just for transparency purposes for everyone that may not have read it at some point.
Yeah, and it's certainly on the website. It's just a 2-paragraph thing. So the first of 590.563 and chapter 590 of the state statute is about peace officers, crimes and punishment. This section is about civilian review and oversight, board division. So it's the division also, and entities, powers and duties. So part 1 says each city, county, and city not within a county, that's St. Louis, may establish a civilian review board, division of civilian oversight, or any other entity which provides civilian review or oversight of police agencies, or may use an existing civilian review board or division of civilian oversight or other named entity which has been appointed by the local governing body with the authority, here comes the authority, to investigate allegations of misconduct by local law enforcement officers towards members of the public. The member shall not receive compensation, but shall receive reimbursement from the local governing body for all reasonable and necessary expenses. And paragraph 2 says the board division, or any other such entity shall have the power solely only limited to receiving, investigating, making findings, and recommending disciplinary action upon complaints by members of the public against members of the police department that, when here's what kind of complaints, that allege misconduct involving excessive use of force, abuse of authority, discourtesy, or use of offensive language, including but not limited to slurs relating to race, ethnicity, religion, gender, sexual orientation, and disability. The findings and recommendations of the board, division, or other entity, and the basis therefore, shall be submitted to the chief law enforcement official. No finding or recommendation shall be based solely upon an unsworn complaint or statement, nor shall prior unsubstantiated, unfounded, or withdrawn complaints be the basis for any such findings or recommendations. And this is the last sentence. Only the powers specifically granted herein are authorized, and any and all authority granted to future or existing boards, divisions, or entities outside the scope of powers listed herein are expressly preempted and void as a matter of law. So that's the whole thing. Also, I will make note, you're going to talk about how laws are changing now, but when the state law changed, that was in the House Bill 452 that you're going to talk about later, I think, or 495, I'm sorry. It didn't repeal this. So we can, this still exists. So this law still applies. So those are all just some factual, true things. I will give it back to you.
Okay, thank you. Well, and then I pulled it up on my screen. It was 590.653. I read it with you. Okay. So hopefully that answers, I guess, some questions and concerns, but I'm sure other board members may have questions potentially maybe later in reference to this. Okay, so of course, the work plan, has everyone had an opportunity to look at it to see what changes were made? In reference to it, it's a lot of the same information that Barbara kind of spoke of that went with that state statute, just in reference to how we review and investigate those cases and what our actual duties are. And then I guess I had a question in reference to it, Barbara, if you had a chance to look at like, or I guess trying to think how I want to word that. As far as like our community portion of it, since we are volunteers, how exactly, because I know that that was something that we put in the original one that we wanted to have, so like community portions of it. Is that something that we would still be able to carry out in our role?
I mean, and I don't want to extend a legal opinion in an open document, but I think you have to look
Right.
at it and say, is this receiving a complaint? Is this investigating a complaint? Is this, making a finding? Or is this, making a recommendation for discipline? If it doesn't fit in those things, as far as information, I'm sure that you could tell someone that we have a board that receives complaints and investigates them and makes findings and sometimes recommends discipline, but beyond
Yeah.
that, there's nothing that I see there, but that's the guidelines, that's the
Okay.
numbers,
Okay. So have all the board members had an opportunity to review the current work plan that was sent today? I believe Candace sent it out, or the commissioner. Okay, go. Ms.
If I could
Ruby.
briefly just say one thing though on that,
Mhm,
I just sent that all out to the board. Sierra, I did send it to you,
mhm.
once the changes were made, but it wasn't sent out to the board until now. It should be in your email and
Okay,
to you too, Barb, because we had to make those last minute adjustments, so they're out to you now.
okay. And I see Dr. Mylan that she's about to get on, because I know I'm getting to her part. And then as far as I guess like I'll move on to the next item. I'll move on to floor chairperson's report. Um Currently the only thing that I have in reference to my report in is that I believe you all have one more training left, as far as the new board members. And after that, it seems like you all will be home free. So then we could begin carrying out our duties fully as a board. I didn't have anything else to add on to that item, with that. And is Dr. Marlin on yet? Or is any of the other staff able to begin, I guess, her section with the commissioner's report of, I know, discussion of Rule 7? Ruby, I know you were getting ready to say something too. Go ahead.
I just had a question I wanted
Okay.
to ask Barbara.
Mhm.
If it's within, if it's proper to have her speak to this issue. I wanted to know whether or not subpoena power would be still considered under investigation of complaints.
Good question.
I think I need to look at that before, and I certainly don't want to give the opinion here in an open public meeting, but we can look at that.
Okay.
And I'm
thanks.
writing it down, so, and if you want, of course, a formal opinion that will come, you would send that in writing, but,
No, just your thoughts on that particular issue,
and
whether
I feel like there's gonna be,
investigation was
other
broad enough
changes.
to encompass the subpoena power that was granted under the ordinance, or whether or not you think that may have been alleviated.
And yeah, and there's gonna be more changes even beyond today, so, it's something that we'll need to see what happens, so. Even if we had something definitive, but I'll circle back and look at that.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that because I did think about that and I thought about it for closed session if we needed to go into one. Um, Go ahead, Keith. I saw your hand up. I didn't.
Thank
Hopefully,
you.
I'm not missing anybody.
You're good. So about the subpoena power, Barbara, while you're looking into it, I would ask if you could also maybe think about if it feels like it's iffy, we don't want to be stuck in another multi-year injunction. Or if it feels like maybe we don't have it, could you also try to look into alternative routes? For example, like, is there a process by which we make a recommendation to the Public Safety Committee of the Board of Aldermen or something else? Because I feel like doing all of that research at once might be easier than us going back and forth.
Yeah, I think this is an issue that this area is going to be looking at going forward, because again, it's a season where there's a lot of change going on.
Yeah, absolutely, because the governor has to assign the transitional person that's going to be, so it's going to be a lot of questions that we're going to be having in the coming months. I'm sure they're going to take place. I saw Dr. Mylan on, and hopefully I
Yes,
didn't.
Dr. Mylan, she's ready to
Okay.
join.
Okay, Dr. Marlin, we're on your portion with the commissioner's report for discussion of Rule 7. Can't see you, but I see your box on here.
Everything that we can to comply with the state statute. We do have some activities that we have scheduled. You have my written report, I believe, which provides you an update on the vision plan. We've had very good participation with recommendations on the vision plan. At the all staff meeting that is scheduled in a couple of weeks, we will finalize the vision plan. I am very pleased to also announce that we are initiating the inaugural Division of Civilian Oversight Roundtable program. The Roundtable program is scheduled. It will be held on May the 12th. And we have various speakers that will be focusing on public safety. Our chairwoman Sierra is on the agenda. Mr. Kennedy, a former alderperson, and I believe he is the clerk for the city's alder people, will be participating. And two of our investigators will also be participating at that program. The roundtable program is organized to support one of the DCO objectives, which is community outreach. So we will be inviting members of the community to attend the roundtable program. Each of the presenters will have a designated amount of time for their presentation. And after the presentations are completed, it will be open for questions from the public. In regards to the dashboard, actually, the good news is you will be receiving in the mail the COB reports from 2021 to 2023. That report was just published. We provided a copy of the report to Director Coyle on yesterday. And on, I believe later today, staff will be taking the written report for the offices of the alderpersons. We are in the process of finalizing the Detention Facilities Oversight Board report. And once that report has been printed, we will make sure that you have a copy of that report as well. We had to do a lot of catch up because the reports had not been provided since the last publication of several years ago. We believe that shortly we will have be in compliance with our quarterly reports for 2024. And those reports will also be provided to COB. So that is a major accomplishment to at least get the past reports completed. We're working on the dashboard. The dashboard will be a website location that members of the public will be able to see information about complaints and allegations and closed cases. We've had several meetings with the city IT. We have another meeting that's coming up to finalize identification of what data analytics will be presented on the website. We will identify the data analytics, but on each of the websites, we will have the published COB reports as well as the DFOB reports. So there's a lot of activity that's going on, and we are inviting participation and comments regarding any of the information that we present to you. We're looking for video. Okay.
It looks like her camera is covered, the covering.
Yeah, staff is trying to address that right now.
Oh, okay. I was trying to make sure we didn't get cut off or anything because I didn't hear anything else when you stopped talking.
Okay. I'm still here, finally.
Okay. Okay.
I had a question for you, Dr. Mylon, if
Yes.
okay. Oh, we can see stuff now.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, I brought this up a couple meetings ago, and I was wondering if you were able to look into it. If you were able to talk to the police, if there's any way for us to look at their policy and their policies and rules and everything like that. I know we had talked about them probably not being public, so if there was a spot that we could look at them privately or anything like that when we're making our recommendations.
Harrison, I'm glad you're raising that at today's meeting, because on Monday, we will be hosting the first St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department meeting here at our office. That meeting is scheduled at 1 o'clock on Monday. We have had monthly meetings with the police department. I'm happy to tell you that we've really, in my opinion, have had cooperation in terms of our communications with the police. So Harrison, I will bring this up at our meeting on Monday and hope to respond to you very soon.
Okay, thank you.
Another matter, Harrison, that you brought to my attention was the confidentiality agreement. And I will be sending that out to both of our boards. In addition to the confidentiality agreement, in my experience, we should also have a conflict of interest form. So if there are any matters that come before individuals of the board, that we have a procedure that's set up where the board person can provide the disclosure that the matter is a conflict of interest. And then, of course, the board person would refrain from voting on any matter in which it's established that there's a conflict of interest. So we will be providing the confidentiality form as well as a conflict of interest form. Are there any other questions?
Just a suggestion, while you're drafting that, Dr. Milan, in addition to refraining from voting, I think it'd be helpful to have a additional process for people who might need to refrain from even hearing the details of the complaint. I could imagine, for example, a case where maybe one of Harrison's clients is a person involved, or one of mine, and the moment we even speculate that it's that person, we want to leave the conversation.
Okay, so Keith, are you suggesting that the disclosure is made? I'm sorry, are you also saying that the person should refrain from discussion?
Yeah, I think I see Barbara nodding as well. Yes, I think it'd be very inappropriate for example, like if one of my estate planning clients even was involved in a complaint, I still shouldn't be involved in the discussion.
Okay, your point's well taken. We'll make sure that's included.
Thank you.
And if you have a recommendation for the phrasing for that, please forward it to me.
I assume the city councilor's office might have some ideas. Barbara, do you think you could help with that?
Yeah, I mean, this sounds like a form that we can work on prior to the next meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, that'll work.
And then too, I was looking through the ordinance. I'm gonna have to go through and find it because I do recall there is a section in here that speaks of that. You see, I want to say I'm in confidentiality portion of the ordinance where, of course, obviously the information that we can't share, but then it also goes into, I think I'm on page 24. It actually goes into that information that you're talking about, Keith, in reference to trying to find a sentence where it's in, because I don't want to read this whole page, you all, I'm sorry, but talks about any person who was found to have engaged or facilitated such unlawful disclosure and have released confidential information to any person unauthorized to receive such information may immediately be disqualified from serving on the COB or DFOB to continue employment by the Division of Civilian Oversight. But like it's also in the ordinance already too that we can't like discuss certain things, but I'm trying to find the section where it actually kind of goes further into it. I'm gonna keep reading and see if we can find it later. But I feel like it was a portion of it at some point that was in there. It might have been the old one. But okay. Okay, Dr. Marlon, were you still presenting your portion of it or were you done?
No, I believe that's all.
Okay. All right, so I'll move on to the next item. So we're not going to go into closed session this time. because I know everyone needs to review the work plan, I'm sure there'll be more questions, and we still have a board meeting later this month. So we're going to go past both of those and we're going to do public comment. Harrison, I'll ask you to keep a time on whoever is wanting to speak and for them to raise their hands to be acknowledged by the host and to have a 2-minute portion for public comment. And that we're, as board members, we're not going to answer or respond to anything. It's just a time for people to, you know, be able to speak directly to us in reference to what their concerns are. And of course, hopefully it's not in relation to any specific cases or anything of that sort. And yes,
Madam
so
Chair,
mhm,
excuse me, Madam Chair,
mhm,
before we go to the public portion of the meeting, I
mhm,
need to clarify, one of our investigators, Reddit, mentioned
mhm.
something to me this morning. Reddit, is the matter that you want to discuss with the COB board today?
Yes.
Okay, and
And
Madam Chair,
but it would need to be a closed session.
Okay, all right.
Uh,
Okay,
sorry about
so
that.
I'm
so
not gonna
what?
add too much time to.
Well, okay, it's well because we adopted this agenda. So I'm wondering if we do public comment first, so we're not holding everyone up, because that was the main reason we put it on the agenda for this time, because they didn't get to speak last time.
Okay.
And then we could circle back to the closed session portion so we don't keep everyone online.
Okay.
All right, so, okay, so Harrison, keep 2-minute remarks, and then of course, after that, we'll go into the closed session portion. And if there's anyone from the public that has a comment, just use the raise your hand option in the reaction on your Zoom. So let me try mine and see if it works. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Is there anyone from the public that had any comments for today? I do not see any hands raised. Okay.
Madam Chair,
Oh, Keith
I'll point
Rose.
out, sorry, I'll point out sometimes we have a hard time, people in the audience can't raise their hand. So could someone raise their hand and just make sure that it's possible?
Yeah, that's what I just did a second ago. I was like, oh, I see
Well, I
it
know you
works.
can, you might,
Yeah,
but
let's
there may be
see.
non-board
And
members.
yeah, and if they're on, okay, there we go. All
Okay,
right,
so
so we
people
have
are able
3
to talk, but
hands.
they're choosing not to. I see. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm like, it's Friday. Everyone's ready to check their weekend. Okay, because I didn't want to hold anyone from the public on here, given we'll have to go into closed session. So, of course, like to the public portion, thank you,
Oh,
Curtis. Okay, so, okay, Mr. Curtis Royston.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you to the board for the service that you're giving. I'm just wondering, is it possible to give an elevator pitch on exactly what the impact is by the state takeover of the police department and how that will affect the work that you all are doing? Is that something that can be summed up in about 3 sentences without going into a bunch of legalese and reading the statutes?
Mhm. Looking at Dr. Mylan and our counsel Barbara for that one. Any way to do that in 3 sentences? Because I can't think of 3 right now.
Sir, I would just submit for your consideration that the decision by the state is one in which I have no history of. As I understand from various leaders in the community, that this was an approach by the state previously. At this point in time, until the person, the transition person is appointed and the state has appointed their police commissioners, we just don't have the information. I am encouraged by the fact that we have been meeting with the police department on a monthly basis. Those meetings support us to exchange information, and it also, from my perspective, contributes to the relationship building with the St. Louis Police Department. I do think that it is most, I have to say, unusual that the state is taking this position. And as I understand, there are only 2 police departments that have state oversight in the country. So we will be monitoring the implementation, and we will be seeking to work with the state as much as they will allow in terms of civilian oversight. I also must state that I feel very positive about our local civilian oversight board and their commitment to continuing their work, because the state has their position, but locally we will know as much as we can know and understand about what is transpiring here in the city of St. Louis. As we have more information, sir, we will be providing it.
Okay, thank you. And I see Ms. Jamala Rogers' hand is raised. Go ahead, you have the floor.
Thank you. And to Curtis Royston's question, I think there is a way now to articulate the bill and its impact on local control. Maybe not in 3 sentences, but maybe 3 to 5 sentences. So above and beyond the fact that state law trumps local law, I think what people are going to be interested in is what are the significant differences in power and authority of the board. And I think that could be concisely said. And I think it must be concisely said going forward so that people understand really what has happened, and how it's implemented is a separate question. But I think it helps people to understand the implementation if you got a concise description of how we will be moving forward.
Thank you for that. Yes, a lot of questions, concerns going forward, absolutely. But we're gonna figure it out. So, is there anyone else that has public comment that they would like to provide today? Okay, Keith, you're not the public. You just raised your No, I'm just playing. Go ahead.
Sorry, before we go into closed session, though, one thing I do want to just make sure the public is remembering is that right now we're in a period of transition, and there's a lot of decisions yet to be made. And we know the names and phone numbers of those decision makers. Most of them are not on the Civilian Oversight Board. So if you have opinions on how or if the Civilian Oversight Board should continue to exist and you would like to express them, now would be a very opportune time to contact individuals like Mayor-elect Kara Spencer, whoever the new Public Safety Committee chair is going to be, whether that's Alderman Brett Narayan or someone else, we'll know on Tuesday. Individuals like Governor Kehoe, whoever the transition manager is whenever they're appointed. And so if you have opinions, it would be helpful if you express those to those decision makers. And additionally, possibly also Senator Steve Roberts or Senator Carla May, who might have the ear of the governor. And so just be aware that these decisions aren't going to be made in a vacuum. And so we're really hoping that the public is continuing to give their input on how you would like your police department to have oversight.
Thank you for that. I do not see any other hands raised. So of course, I'm going to move that we go into closed session pursuant to section 610.021. 1, for purposes of discussing legal actions, cause of action, or litigation involving a public governmental body or its representative and its attorneys. Is there a second?
I second.
This will be a roll call vote to go into closed session.
Kristen Griffin. Derek Kilgore.
Second.
Keith Rose.
Aye.
Jennifer Whitaker.
Aye.
Bradley Ortega, Stephen Rovac,
Aye.
Sierra Simrel, Sierra Simrel.
Okay, did it pick up? Can you all hear me? Okay.
Harrison Sand, aye. Motion passes.
Okay, and I'm not sure how we'll do this. I'm sure we'll have to move to another room, so I guess I'll wait for the countdown for us to be shifted over.
She's the host. I'm not the host. Sierra is the host.
They say I'm the host.
According to the participant list, Amy Doyle is the host.
Yeah, because I was like, I don't have the capabilities on my end.